Good morning, friend, and happy Friday. I am so grateful that you are joining me this morning to hang out with me here today on the Seeking Over Striving podcast. This episode today is going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about today, the growing pains that come with letting go of your own plans and stepping into the plan and the path that God has for you. Even when we know that abundance will follow and that his plan is best, it doesn't make it automatically easy or enjoyable, or it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. That's all I can say. So anyway, that's what today's episode is going to be about. So let's just get to it. Okay, here we go. Welcome to Seeking Over Striving. Do you constantly think about how to make more money? Are you uncontent and always searching for more? Do you know you need to slow down and seek God in your business, but don't? Hey, I'm Beth, and I too was a Christian entrepreneur trapped in the cycle of boss babe culture. Like you, I felt the pressure of 6 figures, lived on social media, and hit burnout. I told myself there was no way to have a successful business without idolizing wealth and constant hustle. And then God showed me the truth. I needed to leave behind the way I'd been doing things and just follow him. In this podcast, you will learn how to build your faith, see God in your business, and renew your mindset. So dust off that Bible, girl, and let's dive in. Hey, did you know that I have a private Facebook group for women just like you? Burnt out Christian entrepreneurs who want to find peace and fully trust in God's provision instead of striving their way to success. I know how hard this is, and I wanted to create a community of women who knew just how you feel. So join my private Facebook group, Making Money with God, at bit.ly/makingmoneywithgod.com, and I will see you there. So today I wanted to talk about the growing pains of moving forward into the purpose and the plan that God has for you in your business when you decide to really fully surrender and give up doing things your own way. And even when you make that decision, I think it's just human nature that we end up backsliding and regressing. I mean, maybe not all of you do this, but I know I've done it lots of times. And I guess just honestly, the inspiration for this episode today is because I'm just dealing with it myself. Like, I'm just having this internal battle right now with trying to move forward into what God wants me to do. But on the outside, in the world, in the logical places on paper, I keep thinking it doesn't make sense. Like, basically at the end of the day, what needs to happen is I have to let go of pieces of my business that I've been doing for 20 years. If you haven't listened to any of my episodes already, or if you don't know me personally, I work, like, my day job is an esthetician. I have an aesthetics business. I've worked as a sole proprietor. Right now I work solo in a studio, and I've been working this job as an esthetician in the same town for almost 20 years now. My business has ebbed and flowed over those 20 years. Of course, it's gone through lots of changes and lots of different things, and definitely in the last year, my business has changed a lot. I have scaled back my hours in the studio quite a bit, and that's been to do this podcast and to, like, I know that God has moved things in my business in the studio to set me up to do other things moving forward. And it's starting with this podcast. You know, over a year ago, when I knew I wanted to, like, educate or coach or do a ministry or whatever this is that it's going to be called, I don't really even have a formal label for it. I guess it's all of those things. But God was like, it starts with a podcast. And I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't even know. And then all these things, like, all these doors fell open into me joining this mastermind that's about podcasting. It's run by a Christian woman, and she specifically, her job is to coach Christian women on how to start a podcast, to build their business. And so I finally joined that program probably 4 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. Anyway, and I'd been working on this whole podcast thing on my own without this program, for about a year. So anyway, the point is God has moved my business so much in the last year, and changing my day job, like changing my aesthetics business in the studio, has been a big piece of that. I've gone through lots of moments where I feel like a failure. I feel like, I'm just kind of this old worn out hat of 20 years and nobody wants to come get my services anymore because I'm old news. And, there's all these new fancy aesthetic places in town that are like killing it and fancy and shiny and new and all the things. And like, I guess the lie is that I'm not as good as them, or I'm not good enough, or I can't keep up with them. But that's not even true. The truth is that's not what I'm even supposed to be doing right now. Being settled as a studio with myself, doing my own thing and serving the clients that God has for me right now, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm supposed to be moving forward into this other phase of my business, and that starts with podcasting. So it's just all of these pieces that come together are beautiful, but it's still difficult and it's still painful. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to continue doing everything in the studio the way I'm doing it, but then also have the time and energy and availability to move forward with whatever this business is going to be. The next step that it started with the podcast and now I need to move into the next thing. And how do I move into that next thing if I don't continue to change what I'm normally doing in the studio? And I just am going through this mental turmoil. Okay, how do I make all of this continue to happen? And the fact is it can't. The fact is it can't happen. Unless I'm going to work 90 hours a week and, then want to slit my wrists in the bathroom because I'm so stressed out and burnt out, it can't happen. I can't do that. Things can't stay the same. And that's just the truth of our lives in general, whether it's a change we have to make in our life or a change we have to make in our business. Whatever it is that God is calling us to do, it is fluid. And things have to change. And that's what sanctification is. Even after you give your life to God and you accept the gospel and you have the Holy Spirit, everything, you don't change that one time and then it's just like that. I mean, we change all the time through our whole life until our day on this earth is done. We are going to continue to change and evolve along with what God has for us in our path. So I'm just sitting here personally in my life right now, but also so many times over the past 20 years of work, I've done the same thing, but it's just sitting here trying to grip tight to this thing so hard. That's what it is. I am trying to grip so tight to my business in the studio that I have put 20 years of blood, sweat, and tears into, and I don't want to let it go. And I'm not saying I have to quit my job in the studio at all. I truly do not feel like God is asking me to quit. But I am going to have to cut back even more. And this is the painful part of it. This is where I'm talking about growing pains. If I cut back in the studio, I'm going to lose clients. That's just the reality of it, because I don't have time to even see every single person that I see right now. Pretty close. I mean, honestly, it's pretty close. I'm not going to lose a ton of clients, but I am going to lose some people because I just am not going to have the time to get everybody in. I'm not going to be as available the hours that I'm available now once I make these changes. If you're listening, you're probably an entrepreneur. And whatever that means, you have clients or customers or whatever. And if you're someone who's had long-standing clients, especially if you're somebody in the service industry, if you are an esthetician or a hairdresser or you do nails or massage, or, I don't know, maybe you're a realtor that works with the same client on lots of investment properties, or maybe you're an accountant and you have someone you do monthly bookkeeping with that you just have grown to know this person and their business or whatever, or maybe you own a boutique and you have customers that come in all the time. Whatever it is, if you're an entrepreneur, you most likely have clients. And when you've built relationships with people, it's hard to let that go. It's very hard to let that go. It is hard to not feel like you're disappointing people. It's hard to not, at least for me, and this is a lie. This is a limiting belief that creeps in. I feel guilty I feel like I'm letting people down, or I feel like I'm being selfish if I'm no longer able to serve them. And none of those things are true. And also the other very painful thing is it's scary. And here I am doing this podcast that's saying trust in God's provision, and I'm freaked out. Like, if I lose clients, I'm going to lose some clients that pay me a lot of money. If I can't get them in and I don't make this money, that's very scary to me. And it's very scary when my husband's also self-employed and his business is pretty new and there isn't a steady paycheck. It's just, this is also how the devil works. When you get so close to doing something that God is asking you to do, the pressure is on from Satan full force. He knows when you're vulnerable, and he's going to get into every single nook and cranny of your brain and your heart and your soul to keep you from doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that's exactly what's happening to me right now. Like, this podcast is launched, it's happening. My heart and soul are on a platter for whoever listens, and it still makes me want to vomit a little bit, but it's getting easier and more comfortable for me. But I mean, the next step is doing this other thing that's just a huge risk. It's a huge risk. But as entrepreneurs, what isn't a risk? I mean, we're always risk taking. It's also not a risk because God's asking me to do it, but it's so painful. It is hard and it's difficult and it's scary. And here I am on this podcast that says trust in God's provision. And that is the one thing that I'm having the hardest time doing right now. I'm having the hardest time trusting the finances, trusting the process, trusting that these next opportunities are going to be there when they're supposed to be there. Trusting that, whatever I have to cut out in the studio, it's still going to be okay. Trusting that clients will understand, people will understand. I mean, the world will go on. If my schedule or my pricing or whatever it is that ends up changing doesn't accommodate my aesthetics clients, they have a million other options. There's plenty of other places they can go get a facial or their brows waxed, and they're going to be fine. Like, it's okay. I'm not the end all be all. It's fine. Nobody's dying. The earth isn't shattering. My clients love me and I love them, and they'll understand if things don't work, they don't work. It's okay. And it's also not personal. Having to cut my business, having to make changes doesn't make me an a-hole. Like, it literally just is what it is. But if I continue gripping this so tight, nothing else can come in. Whatever God has for me and my future and my business and for my family, I can't even have it. I can't even accept it and get it. He can't put anything in my hand if it's gripping so tight to this other thing. These steps of cutting back little by little, it feels so painful, but at the same time, it's so gracious. Like, when we are going through changes, it feels painful to us, but honestly, like, God's giving so much grace in me not having to just completely shut my business down, which in my weird mind, I feel like that would be easiest. I feel like if I just closed the doors to my studio tomorrow, it would be easier than cutting back, but it really wouldn't. Again, that's just this other weird lie that Satan tried to wrap around my mind to just give up and quit, which is not at all what I'm supposed to be doing. But what I do know is I have to let stuff go so I can move forward with something else, but it's still so painful. And I guess I just wanted this to be a message because in the worldly sense of business, or like what's talked about so much in like the new age philosophy that applies to business, is how easy everything is. Like, oh, everything gets to be easy. Everything's so easy. If it doesn't feel like a hell yes, don't do it. If it doesn't light you up, don't do it. Like, all of these things that say everything should just be easy and sunshine and roses all the time, and that's when you know it's the right decision. None of that's true. Even when we know we have to sacrifice something and let go of something so you can do what God's asking you to do, it's not friggin' easy. It's not easy. I mean, sometimes it is, obviously. Like, some things are an easy yes, and you just know it, and there's peace behind it. But this is the other thing. Like, even in letting go, when it's hard to let go and it's painful, there is still peace behind it, because you know deep down it is the right thing to do. But if you're a human being and not a robot, it can be painful and difficult. And so I just want to encourage you, don't let Satan keep you stuck and gripping tight to this thing you need to let go. And it's hard. It is very hard, and you are not alone. There's nothing wrong with you if you feel like in your head and your heart, you know you need to change something, but emotionally, it's still so hard for you. Like, that's normal. You are normal. It's fine. You're not a robot. You're a human. It's normal to feel afraid. It's normal to feel sad. It's normal to feel discouragement and disappointment and doubt and all the things. Like, it's totally normal to feel all of that, but we just can't get stuck there. We still have to move forward, and we can't compromise either. And I feel like maybe compromise is getting a little off track of what I was trying to say, but that's just another thing that I am gripping so tight. I mean, so many things I've tried to compromise, and that's kind of the point of all of this. Like, we are going to let it all go and trust in God's provision. I can't keep doing things my way and do things his way. We can't do that. We cannot compromise. How can I keep doing these two things? How can I, keep promoting this while also promoting that? Maybe that works in some situations, but I think you get what I'm saying. We have to literally surrender every single thing we have to move forward with what God has. And maybe what you're already doing is part of that plan. But if there's something specific that you have to let go of, as hard as it is, you have to let go of it. Nothing is going to continue to move forward. I mean, it's just physically impossible. You can't. If there's two paths in front of you, if there's a Y in the road, you can't take both of them. You have to take one. And if taking that road that God is calling you to take means you have to leave some other stuff behind that you don't want to leave behind, you got to take it anyway. And I'm just telling myself this. And this is something I've overcome. But again, I feel like I'm just backsliding. And so maybe that's where you are too. And that's just why I'm just being totally vulnerable and real with you, just having this conversation. It is so easy to backslide, especially when Satan knows where your weak and vulnerable spot is. And for me, that vulnerable spot is the connection and the relationships that I have with people. Building in relationships and building connections with my clients, that is my favorite part of my job. It's not even about the tactical piece of my work. It's not even skincare that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about the relationships and the connections and those friendships and that support, that community. That's what it is. It's just that community and those relationships that I've built with clients is what is so important to me. And that's my weak spot. If I have to change my life in my business currently in the studio, and if that results in me losing clients, that's my weakness. That's my vulnerable spot. That's what hurts my heart, is thinking that I'm going to have to lose clients. I don't want that. I don't want to lose these people, or I don't want to let them down, or I don't want to disappoint them, or I don't want to feel like I'm not there for them. And really, that's just my own crap. You guys, this is just my own stuff that Satan's whirling in my head to keep me stuck here to not do it. I mean, I've already said that, but it looks differently for everybody, but we just have to push through it no matter what. I guess that's my encouragement. Just, we have to push through these things no matter what, because what is on the other side is crazy, audaciously way more than anything we can even imagine for ourselves or our own plans. But we can't get there unless we put down our own thing and move forward. We cannot get to the other side. We cannot get to the promised land if we keep wandering the desert doing our own thing. We can't do this. It has to stop. And even if it means disappointing people here on earth, it is what it is, guys. I mean, it sucks, but we can't be everything for everyone. We have to be who God's asking us to be. That's the most important thing. Like, we can't make everybody happy. We can't do everything perfectly for everybody in our lives and our business. It just doesn't work, but it's okay. We are not called to do everything for everybody. We're not called to make everybody happy. We are called to do what God's asking us to do that's going to glorify Him. And I mean, like I said, if some clients have to go somewhere else, it's okay. Maybe they'll be relieved to go somewhere else. Maybe they're just sticking with me because they're super loyal to me. And maybe someone will be relieved to go try a different place. I don't know. But again, it's like most likely, whatever your business is, it's going to be the same fallout as my business. Like, if we have to lose customers or clients or change things or change our hours or change our offers or whatever it is that we have to change that makes us feel like we can't serve every single person, your client that you can't serve anymore is gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine and they're gonna be fine. Like, it's okay. It's gonna be okay. And maybe I'm just saying this out loud to tell myself that, but if this message dropped into my brain to share with you, somebody needs to hear it. Whoever's listening to this, someone needs to hear the same thing. Whatever it is that you have to change to move forward with what God is asking you to do, it's going to be fine for all parties involved, no matter what that change is. And plus, whatever it is you're supposed to let go of so you can go off and do something else for God's glory, that's going to bless abundantly whoever else it is you're supposed to serve in whatever capacity that is. So anyway, this is getting too long. I will be done and let you go. The point is just, if you have to make a big change and it feels gross and crappy and it sucks, and if you're sad and if you have doubt and if you're afraid and if you feel like you're disappointing, if you feel grief, like, this sounds a little dramatic, but sometimes you just have to mourn these things. Like, it kind of just feels like a death. If you have to let some big piece of your life go, it feels sad. It's sad, but it's okay. It's okay. You're normal. You're not alone. It's fine. But we have to push through to the other side, because what is on the other side is going to be grossly more abundant than anything that you're doing right now. It's going to be okay. Push forward. You can do it. We can do it, right? Okay. I hope this blessed you. Please come into the Facebook group, Making Money with God. It's free. It's a community, Christian women in business wanting to ditch boss babe culture to do things God's way. And here I am signing off. Listen, trusting God's provision, okay? That's like the tagline of the show. And I still struggle with it, you guys. This is not a one-size-fits-all perfect blueprint to just get over and move forward. These are things that we can battle until our day on earth is done. But if we are in a group, if we have a community of people where we just are real and open and vulnerable and talk about these real things, it just gets us through these times when we can just feel so much doubt. And, some of you might feel alone. You're not alone. Come join us in the community. We will see you there. Thank you again so much for hanging out with me today. I pray that if you are feeling stuck in doubt and fear and imposter syndrome and all the things, I just pray that you sit quiet with God and remember that you have the power of the Holy Spirit to overcome anything and push through anything to step into whatever it is He is asking you to do. So I pray this blesses you. Trust in His provision. I'm going to keep reminding myself that, and have a great weekend ahead. Hey friend, I hope you loved today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds to leave me a review on Apple Podcasts so I know the show blessed you? And please share this episode with a boss babe you know who may need to stop hustling and seek God first. Okay, girl, I will meet you back here in a couple days. And until then, stop striving and start seeking, because God has the promised land waiting and ready for you.